A red planet hangs over Paris like a silent warning from the end of time itself. The world is already broken, cities have crumbled into dust, resources are nearly gone, and people no longer live with hope. They only wait, measuring what little time remains in shallow breaths. But the most haunting thing about this disaster is that it was foretold by a child. We go back. Young Paul sits beside his older brother Elliot, trembling with a dream. In that dream, Earth's resources vanish, simply gone, as if stolen by the universe itself. Then a mysterious red planet materializes in the sky. Humanity calls it the Red Moon. For 4 years, people harness its strange energy just to survive, but then the planet begins drifting closer. Slowly. Inexorably. What once gave humanity hope has become the very thing that threatens to erase it. Paul also sees one more thing: only one person can stop the Red Moon, but before he can save everything, he disappears. A child's nightmare. A boy's impossible warning. But years later, every image Paul ever saw has become real. Paris is unrecognizable, no longer the luminous city it once was, but a dry and hollow wasteland. The sky looks diseased. Dust buries the streets, and above it all, the Red Moon dominates the horizon, so close now that its gravity distorts the world below. If nothing changes, both worlds will be destroyed. Through this dead landscape, Paul W.R. runs alone, wild-eyed, exhausted, completely untethered from any safety. As he moves, a child's voice echoes inside his skull, urging him forward, telling him to keep running, to devour his fear, to become something the wasteland cannot stop. There is no child nearby. The voice lives inside him. Soon Paul reaches the outskirts of a settlement, one of the ragged camps orbiting a walled government city. After Earth's collapse, wars erupted across every continent. Governments built massive fortified zones to protect those they deemed worth saving, while everyone else was left to rot in desert camps. And even out here, the military is everywhere: armed soldiers, checkpoints, drones stitching the sky into a surveillance net. Paul moves like a ghost among the people. He stays hidden because the government is hunting him. Every camera feels like a weapon. Every patrol feels like a closing fist. He needs a vehicle. He finds a man, friendly, apologetic, too eager to be trusted, and negotiates. The man takes him to his lot and sells him a floating car, because in this future, wheels are a relic. Vehicles hover on electromagnetic power cells, skimming above ground on invisible currents. But during the exchange, a military drone descends and scans him, and this is not a minor inconvenience, because Paul is not just any fugitive. Paul W.R. is the missing astronaut the entire world has been searching for. 4 years ago, his father Henry was one of the most brilliant scientific minds alive. Henry unlocked the Red Moon's energy and gave a dying civilization its last lifeline. For a brief and fragile moment, there was hope. But when Henry realized the Red Moon was drawing too close, when he saw what was coming, he devised a plan to destroy it entirely. Probes were launched. Machines were sent. Not one could survive the Red Moon's ferocious magnetic field, except Paul. For reasons no one could explain, the field left him unaffected. While it shattered everything else, Paul passed through it like water. He alone could complete the mission. And so Henry, brilliant, cold, desperate, sent his own son. But Paul never launched. He vanished before the countdown ended. Because Paul didn't want to destroy the Red Moon. To him, it wasn't a dead rock in space. It was alive. It was aware. It was reaching out to him, showing him truths that no instrument could measure. Nobody believed him. To the government, Paul was simply their most critical weapon, and he had run. That is the man now hiding in the dust. After buying the car, Paul drives out of the settlement, but the vehicle dies suddenly in the middle of nowhere. The traitor cheated him. The power cell is nearly drained. The drone circles back, ready to confirm his identity, so Paul raises his gun and shoots it from the sky before his face can be transmitted. With no better option, he pushes the dead car by hand toward a small repair shop. The shop belongs to Elma, sharp-eyed, wary, survivor tough. She examines the car and delivers the verdict: the power cell needs a full replacement. She can source one, but it will take at least 3 days. Paul says he doesn't have 3 days. Elma shrugs. In a world where even a single working component is a treasure, you wait or you walk. While Paul waits, a news broadcast cuts in, the world holding its breath as one. The Aurora mission is launching, humanity's final gamble, approved by the United Nations, one last attempt to reach the Red Moon and end it. The astronaut chosen, Elliot, Paul's older brother. Since Paul disappeared, Henry has staked everything on Elliot. Paul watches the launch, face unreadable, as Aurora rises, climbing toward the Red Moon, and for one breath of a moment, it looks like humanity might just survive. Then Aurora hits the magnetic field, and everything collapses. Elliot loses control. The signal dies. The screens go black. From the surface of the Earth, the last hope has simply vanished into the sky. Nobody knows if Elliot is alive. The Red Moon keeps moving closer. Paul walks away from Elma's shop, shaken, hollowed out. Elma hands him a small bag with a hand-drawn smiley face. Alone, Paul's past rises to meet him. He remembers his mother, her illness, her suffering, and his father's obsession with the red moon's energy as her potential cure. He remembers being different, strange even to Elliot, who never truly understood him. Paul could feel things before they happened, visions that came like seizures of truth. He heard voices. And always, the same impossible image burned into him, a forest. Alive. Green. Real. A forest that should not exist, because most plants, trees, and animals have long vanished from this dying world. But Paul believed. He believed the forest was real. He believed the red moon was its keeper, its connection to life. That's why when Henry ordered its destruction, Paul tried to stop him. He warned that destroying the red moon might not be salvation. It might annihilate the last answer humanity had ever been given, but Henry wouldn't hear it. And Elliot, proud, practical, certain, saw only weakness in his little brother. Strange. Unreliable. Maybe even a coward. Now Aurora has failed. Elliot is gone. The world has swallowed its last publicly known hope. People everywhere begin the terrible work of accepting the end. Back at the repair shop, Elma catches the news. She sees Paul's face on the screen, and suddenly the quiet stranger who pushed a broken car into her garage was Paul W.R. The missing astronaut. The one person who might still be able to stop what is coming. Elma grabs her gun and moves to find him. But before she leaves, her father appears at the door, trying to apologize for the violence, for the cruelty that drove her mother away and destroyed whatever family they had. Elma says nothing. There are no words left for old wounds today. She turns her back on him and walks into the wasteland. She must find Paul before the military does. She finds him among a graveyard of wrecked vehicles, digging through twisted metal with bloody hands, searching for a working power cell. Elma approaches. She says she knows who he is and that she wants to travel with him. Paul refuses, hard and immediate. Whoever gets near him gets destroyed. She needs to leave. Meanwhile, out in the wastelands, two children are playing in an abandoned zone when something falls from the sky. They run toward it, a smashed pod, half swallowed by the earth. Inside, a man barely breathing, barely alive. It is Elliot. He survived. Somehow. Elliot is retrieved and brought back to the facility. He meets Henry. Broken, ashamed, he begins to apologize. But Henry has stopped listening to apologies because the news from Elliot's body is stranger than any failure. When Elliot passed through the red moon's magnetic field, it rewrote him. For hours, his body was clinically dead. His DNA was rearranged at a molecular level. But he came back different. As if the red moon released him changed by intent. Back in the desert, Paul wrestles with his broken car while Elma watches from a distance. Then soldiers come. Paul fights. Paul runs. He escapes again. That evening, Elma returns to her trailer to find it engulfed in fire. Her father has burned everything she owns. Elma falls apart. This was the last thing that was hers, the last small anchor in this unraveling world. Her father stands in the firelight, unmoved. The next day, Elliot arrives in the same area. Someone reported a sighting. Elliot wants Paul found, captured and forced back onto the mission. Elma's father crosses Elliot's path. Elliot questions him. But Elliot is not the man who left Earth, not anymore. The red moon has given him something terrifying, the ability to enter people's minds. To reach in and pull their deepest guilt to the surface, to make shame into a weapon, to reach into someone's skull and sentence them with what they already know about themselves. He is no longer a man. He is a verdict made flesh. When Elliot reads Elma's father, he sees the darkness rooted in every corner of him, the violence, the cruelty. The man has nothing useful to offer, so Elliot punishes him. He forces Elma's father to turn the gun on himself. Elma witnesses it and screams. Paul, still nearby, uses the chaos to steal a power cell from Elliot's vehicle. Then he sees Elma running, wild, undone, and something in him refuses to leave her behind. He pulls her into the car and they drive. Elma bargains through her tears. A man alone is obvious, a man with a woman is just a traveler. Maybe even a family. Paul hates it. He hates that she's right. He lets her stay. Elma says she's searching for her mother, who vanished years ago to escape the violence. But this isn't the whole truth. Later, Elma admits she doesn't know where her mother is. She might not even be alive. And she admits something darker still, she once betrayed Paul. She turned him in for the reward, believing the money could buy her something clean, a different life, an exit. But the road changes everything. Traveling with him, watching him, she begins to see Paul not as a bounty, but as a person she genuinely wants to protect. Paul has a destination. He is searching for the forest from his childhood visions, the impossible forest that no longer has any right to exist. They reach a military checkpoint. Paul's face is too famous, so Elma drives. She is brilliant at it, calm, ordinary, smiling at exactly the right moments. They pass through. Further on, they stop at a derelict diner. Paul finds an old wired telephone and dials a number he has never stopped knowing. He calls Henry. One last time, he tries to make his father understand the red moon is not simply a threat. It is woven into the balance of all life. But Henry's answer is the same it has always been: come back. Destroy it. Save us. Soldiers burst through the door. One wears a heavy military combat suit, nearly impossible to stop. He beats Paul with brutal efficiency, and for a moment Paul seems finished. Elma creates a distraction, just enough for Paul to strike the soldier's head and flee. Elma is shaking. Breathing too fast. The reality of Paul's world has just crashed into her body. But they are not safe yet. Elliot has planted a spider-like surveillance robot on their vehicle, a small mechanical hunter feeding their location directly back to Elliot. On the road, Paul tells Elma more. He has seen the future since childhood. He warned his father. Henry never listened. Every vision, every prophecy, dismissed as madness by everyone who loved him. To protect him from recognition, Elma changes Paul's hair color. Meanwhile, Elliot arrives at the diner and interrogates the woman who runs it. He pushes into her mind. Finds her secret: she murdered her husband. For Elliot, guilt is a sentence. He makes her carry out her own punishment, forces her to take her life right in front of him. Then he walks out and keeps hunting. Paul and Elma drive into a massive storm, lightning, dust, the sky itself attacking. Paul finds the spider robot hiding in the chassis of the car. He destroys it. Elliot loses their trail. They plunge into the storm and find shelter in an abandoned building, an old theater, still standing against the end. Inside, a holographic display plays, the world that was. Animals that no longer exist, forests breathing green, blue oceans, landscapes that feel like another planet now. They watch in silence, as if attending a funeral for the only home they were ever given. Elma asks if Paul has ever seen rain. Yes, he says. Once. He still remembers how it sounded, like a kind of mercy, soft and patient, almost unreal. Then the display shifts, and Paul freezes. A forest. His forest. Exactly as he saw it in his dreams since he was a child. He crosses the room toward it, but it is only a recording. Light and data. Not real. The forest was never real. It was an archive. A ghost image from a world already dead. Something breaks inside Paul. For the first time in his life, he doubts everything. Maybe the visions were delusions. Maybe his father was right. Maybe he abandoned a world for nothing. Elma reaches toward him. He snaps at her, rage and anguish colliding. Then Elliot arrives with soldiers. Paul and Elma form a desperate plan. Paul pretends to take Elma hostage, walking her out in front of him, buying enough confusion to slip free. But Elliot sees through it instantly. He strikes without hesitation. Elma is badly wounded. Paul grabs her and runs while Elliot hunts them through the storm. Even wounded, Elma modifies their vehicle, pushing it higher into the air, but Elliot crashes into them. Both vehicles fall from the sky. Paul and Elliot face each other in the wreckage, two brothers, two visions of the same catastrophe. Elliot uses his power. Paul feels his own mind turning against him, Elliot pushing him toward self-destruction. But through the darkness, Paul hears Elma's voice. It pulls him back. At the last possible moment, Paul breaks Elliot's hold and kills him. Paul carries Elma to shelter. She is alive, barely. He leaves her his childhood drawing book filled with every vision he ever had before it happened. And then Paul stops running. When the soldiers come, he surrenders. He is brought before Henry, and for the first time, he agrees to go. But on one condition. Elma must receive treatment. Henry agrees. Days later, Paul sits alone inside the launch vehicle rising toward the sky. As Elma begins to recover, she finds the drawing book inside her jacket. She opens it. Turns the pages slowly. And she begins to understand these are not random sketches. They are a life. A timeline. Events that already happened, and events still unfolding. High above, Paul's rocket approaches the red moon. Paul has understood the truth now, completely. The red moon was always part of Earth's natural order. When humans exploited it, it reacted. When humans tried to destroy it, it moved closer, not as an aggressor, but as a mirror. Now Paul enters the magnetic field, carrying the last nuclear warheads, every soul on Earth believing he will fire them. But Paul's final decision was never about following orders. The red moon was always reacting to humanity. Paul makes his choice. He changes course. He does not fire. He takes manual control, cuts all communication, and detonates his own rocket in the void. Paul is gone. Paul sacrifices himself, not to destroy, but to stop the cycle of destruction entirely. On Earth, Elma watches the explosion bloom against the darkness and collapses. But then, something impossible. The red moon begins to move away. Slowly. Steadily. Retreating. Paul was right. By refusing to attack, he broke the cycle. His sacrifice saves the world. Elma turns back to the drawing book and finds the final page. It shows her standing in the rain. She holds the image like proof that he was never mad, only early. He simply saw the end of the story before anyone else reached it. And then, the sky answers. Rain begins to fall.